What's up? DSP here, and welcome to another edition of the Hateful Truth game review series. I'm DSP. I already said that, and I said it twice. Anyway, the game we'll be reviewing today is one of those games that is a very polarizing game, okay? There's going to be some people who really enjoy it, and there's going to be some people who absolutely fucking despise it, okay? And there's certain games that end up doing this. They're not necessarily mainstream games per se, meaning they have like a niche market, okay? And there's a certain group of people who really enjoy it, and there's other people who just don't like this kind of game. The game I'm talking about today is Disgaea 4, A Promise Unforgotten. And right off the bat, the name of the game, A Promise Unforgotten. You say, don't you mean a promise remembered? But that's kind of some of the quirkiness and the humor of this game, is that everything is kind of off-the-wall, oddball kind of a style. So Disgaea 4, let's talk a little bit about it. Disgaea is a series that's been going on for quite some time. Got popular on the PlayStation consoles, and really has a cult following, okay? An established base of people who've played these games before and really enjoy these games. So when I decided that I was going to play Disgaea 4, which by the way, it's the first Disgaea I've ever played, I kind of knew what the gameplay was like. I knew it was like a Final Fantasy Tactics basic kind of gameplay like that, but I didn't really know the extent that I was getting myself into it, or how complex that this game really was. But I've never played a Disgaea game before, so I didn't know what to expect from the story, the humor. The art style is kind of a cartoonish blend of anime and almost like over-exaggerated caricatures, almost some lolly in there. I mean, there's all kinds of different things combined in the art style of this game. Now, Disgaea 4 is the first of the series to be in HD. So this is the first, time that these visuals have been blown up for an HD screen. And the first thing I want to say before I even start talking about the game is I enjoyed the graphics of the game, but I did find it a little bit weird that they knew this game was made for HD, okay? It even says on the box it really does generate in full 1080p, but when I was playing it, a lot of the times things were pixelated, which kind of surprised me. Like, I understand why things were pixelated on Final Fantasy Tactics back on the PlayStation 1, or Tactics Advance, which was on the Game Boy Advance, because those graphical engines didn't handle high-resolution graphics. This is supposed to be HD graphics, but sometimes in the game, not all the time, but sometimes in the game the sprites were pixely, which kind of made me scratch my head thinking, why is that? Because they knew that this was the first HD game. But I digress, it doesn't really affect the game much, okay? So Disgaea 4, the best way I can describe this game, it is Final Fantasy Tactics on crack, okay? It is like the epitome, the top of the mountain of that style of gameplay. So what I'm talking about, it's a role-playing game. It's highly turn-based, rather than just being turn-based such as, a traditional role-playing game like the old Final Fantasy series. This one is based on a 3D flat plane, okay? And so you're going to have to not only worry about what attacks to use, or, what defense to use in certain situations, but also where to strategically move your characters on the screen and position them so, number one, they're in a close enough proximity to the monster you're trying to attack so that the attack will hit them. Number two, that you can bypass their defense. In this game, if you actually go behind or to the side of enemies, you have a higher chance of hurting the enemy and also doing a critical hit. And also using this terrain to your advantage. A lot of the times, if you have the high ground, you can hit monsters below you, but they can't hit above them. And it gets very complex. It's not just that simple. There are all kinds of things thrown into this game that make it way more complex than Final Fantasy Tactics ever was. You've got double team attacks. You've got geo blocks, which are actually physical three-dimensional cubes that, when laid on certain areas of the stage that you're on, will give an effect to certain areas. So, for example, if there's a red geo block on a certain piece of the stage, everyone who's on an affected square might get a damage boost. So when they fight, they do more damage. Stuff like that. And it does get more complicated than that, but it's not worth it for me to go too much into detail in this review. But just to know that those kind of things are in the game. The gameplay itself, you're going to have physical attacks, you're going to have magic, you're also going to have character-specific attacks that they learn as the characters level up, and then you're also going to have weapon-specific attacks that you unlock as you level up. There's also the ability to buy passive abilities to equip your character that may give them stat bonuses, that might give them more defense, and so forth. Obviously, weapons and armor are a huge part of the game, whether you earn them during combat or whether you go buy them from the store. Weapons and armor are going to upgrade your stats. And it is definitely necessary to buy better weapons and armor later on in the game. Now, another way to go about it, and this is something completely unique that I've never seen in a game before, is you actually have the ability, if you don't want to keep buying better weapons and armor, you think it's too tedious to keep grinding to get money, well, you can go to what's called the item world and actually level up your weapons and armor. So you can go through 10 quick stages, and if you can beat these stages, or at least just survive them, because you just need to get from point A to point B and exit these stages, your weapons will actually level up, which means the stats on them will increase. So rather than go buying a better sword, you can actually make your own sword better. But really, when it comes down to it, it's all about grinding. Either you're going to grind in the item world, or you're going to grind in the real world, so you can get money to buy the better items. So there's a lot of complexity to the game. In addition to that, not only the combat and the story, but there's a lot of side things you can do. There's a Senate that you can go to petition for certain things. You can try to petition to get better items at the stores. You can try to petition to get a experience boost the next fight that you complete. There's just lots of things that you can do. There's networking options where you can send your characters out to the internet to other people's games, and they'll actually interfere in their Senate sessions and things like that. Pretty crazy. And then also there is a system called the evil symbol system, which is one of the most useful things in the game. Now what this is after you participate in Senate sessions trying to unlock things called evil symbols, there's a totally other three-dimensional plane that looks like a checkerboard. And as you beat each stage of the game during the story, each spot on the checkerboard opens up. And what you're able to do is place symbols on this board. And the symbols will do different effects depending on which symbol it is and who's standing around it. So for example, there's a symbol that's a pyramid. I put it down, and there's 4 squares of the checkerboard around it. So what happens is, if one person stands on the main square, and then 3 other people from your team man the other squares, during combat, whatever kills that person who's in that lead square gets, 10% of the experience he earns is shared with the 3 other people who are around that evil symbol. So it's a way for you to actually level people up without necessarily them having to do all the combat. I actually had a healer who I almost never used in the game, and ended up leveling her up to like level 70 just because she was standing around that pyramid. She never actually participated in combat, but leveled up. So all this kind of complex role-playing game element, all these come together to form a complete gameplay experience. Mostly, as you know, right up to now, I've just been talking about the gameplay of the game. Now let's talk a little bit about the game itself, the story, and things like that. The story is completely weird, off the wall, goes from point A to point Z. I mean, it is all over the place. You start out in the netherworld as a demon. You end up traveling to Earth. You end up traveling to the moon. You end up traveling to all different kinds of locales and places during the course of this game. And I would love to tell you what the plot of the story is, but it changes so often. You know, first you have one goal, then all of a sudden there's a plot twist, and now you got another goal. But you're basically playing the role as of Valvatores, who's a vampire, who no longer has his vampire powers. He's lost his vampire powers because he hasn't drank any blood for 400 years because of a promise that he made. And instead, he eats sardines, of all things, to keep himself strong. And that's the running joke of the game, is that he loves sardines, and he's always giving sardine trivia, and sardines pop up in all different parts of the game. And it's just part of the quirky humor of this game. Some people will get it, some people won't. And for me, it was a mix. I thought a lot of the times it was funny, then sometimes I thought it was cheesy. So it all depended on what was going on, really. And I really thought the best parts of the game were when it was getting really serious, and all of a sudden he'd crack some sardine remark. You're like, what the fuck? It's so crazy and out of place here, but it's actually pretty funny. And there's a cast of lots of different characters. A werewolf, a girl who's dead but doesn't even know it. the son of the president of the underworld, who incidentally is a death, which means that he's supposed to be reaping souls, but he's a reluctant soul reaper. You've got a warden of Hades, who is like some of the comic relief for the game because he's a really weird character. You've got an angel. You've got a monster that after you defeat her joins your team in the goal of trying to become a final boss, and that is another running joke of the game, where the game actually is kind of like, it breaks the fourth wall and knows that, oh, I'm the final boss of the game. And so there's actually a boss you beat and is mad that she's not the final boss of the game and sticks with your party to try to become the final boss of the game. That's pretty funny. It's that tongue-in-cheek kind of humor that, for a gamer, a hardcore gamer, is the kind of stuff that you would find funny. Casual gamers probably like, what the fuck's going on? But I thought it was cute, I thought it was interesting, and I really thought that it added to the game. That being said, okay, this game is very similar to one of those anime series that you watch on TV and or you know, on DVD or whatever, and they're drawn out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a fast paced. It's not constantly moving. It's gonna move at a snail's pace. You're gonna have 10-minute conversations with your party that are just crazy, you know, silly things, talking about have someone having a crush on someone, or the power of sardines, or just things that have no place with really what's going on in the game. And this will happen constantly. You know, it's kind of like, I remember in Dragon Ball when I am the most powerful because I have the power of the Dragon Balls. Oh yeah? Well, my Dragon Ball of power is more powerful than the power of your powers of Dragon Balls because my power is the greatest power. Oh, I don't believe you. My power is the power of the Dragon Balls, and the Dragon Balls can never be defeated because it is the power that is the greatest power. And that's the kind of stuff that happens sometimes in this game. You'll go in circles of people saying silly stuff or taking forever to get to the point of something. And again, if you're used to that, if you watch anime and you know you've experienced that before, you probably won't mind. If you're a little bit impatient, you're probably like, I wish I could just move this along, and you're probably going to end up skipping some of the story elements of the game because a lot of them are very long-winded. So really, let me say what I liked about the game, let me say what I didn't like about the game, and then I'll get to what I feel should be my final score. First of all, the level of content in this game is massive. Massive, overwhelming amount of content. I beat, in my playthrough of this game, I was like 140 something parts. I beat the single player story. That is only half of the game, okay? There's actually post-game content after you complete the story of the game that's just as long as the actual game itself. So really, if I played all of the content of this game, I probably would have been 300 parts. But, as you know, I've got other stuff to do. I can't just, you know, sit here and play this game forever. I gave the game a week, you know? And how many games do I really give a week to play? Let's be honest. So the game did get its due. It got as long as it deserved, I feel. But I'm not going to go crazy into this grinding of the post-game content. But, that being said, the fact that there is that much content, you know, 140-something parts, double that. So 300 parts times, you know, 10 minutes is what? You know what I mean? 3,000 minutes? How many hours is that? That's insane. So just think about that. You're going to get that many hours of gameplay out of a $60 game. That's pretty sweet, okay? I did like the plot. I thought the plot, even though it was crazy at times, it keeps you hooked, and you're always wondering what's going to happen next because the sky's the limit in this game. Any insane thing can possibly happen. And a lot of the things that I thought, I don't want to spoil, but there are a lot of things that they tease at certain things, like the game's going to end, and all of a sudden it doesn't. And you're like, wow, there's more, okay, and you keep going. So it's kind of funny. The humor, if you get the humor, then it's really good. If you don't get it, obviously you're probably going to hate the game. I got a lot of the humor, and I thought it was good. Only until probably the very last tenth of the game when I really was like, alright, I just want to get this done at this point. The long-windedness of the plot and the plot exposition and the talking would ever get to me. So, overall, I really did like the plot. The art design, I'll be honest, at first I didn't think I was going to like it. I ended up liking it a lot. I thought the art design was really well. The graphics, even though pixely at times, I understand. I've played Final Fantasy Tactics before. I'm used to this kind of graphical style. I really enjoyed it. The abilities that you unlock are really cool. Some of these guys, like there's a werewolf, and one of his abilities, he turns into a big feral werewolf and just slashes everyone on the screen for massive damage. That's the kind of stuff that you live for. It's the reward at the end of the tunnel. You're going to grind, and you're going to play through this game and you're going to level up constantly, and finally when you get to these higher level abilities and you see how cool they look and the massive damage that they deal to your enemies, it's awesome and it's very rewarding to use those abilities. So it's a big time investment, but it pays if you stick in there, okay? So those are the things I like about the game, and the gameplay, by the way. The gameplay I love. I love this. I loved that tactical style of gameplay in Final Fantasy Tactics. This game just fucking kicks it up to the maximum overdrive, full throttle, and does an amazing job with the gameplay. I can't fault the gameplay of this game. I think this is, maybe they could throw in a couple more elements, but this is the epitome of this style of gameplay. So if you really wanted me to rate the gameplay of this game, I'd probably give it like a 9.5, because I'm sure there's always something better that could be done, but this is probably the best style of tactical RPG gameplay that you can get, okay? I'm not talking about real-time strategy, I'm talking about this kind of RPG style. This is the best, okay? So I really enjoyed it. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the things that I really didn't like and that a lot of people won't like. The game is long-winded, like I said, and again, if you're really excited and you're into it and you're taking your time with this game, you probably won't mind. Or if you've already, again, experienced this kind of anime style of plot exposition, you won't mind. If you've never played a game like this before, if you've never watched an anime before, you're probably going to get a little bit annoyed. Or if you really don't want to spend a lot of time on this game, this is not the game for you. Because let me put it to you this way. This is a game that mandatorily requires grinding every few hours, okay? You'll play the game for 6 hours, and then the game will kick your fucking ass if you don't take the time to grind. Or you could possibly, I would probably say, you might be able to squeeze by with very minimal grinding during the original story, this 10 episodes or whatever of the story that you go through, if you're a master of Disgaea, if you've played all the previous ones. But if you haven't, you're gonna need grinding. And so what ended up happening for me, I would record, say, maybe 6 to 8 hours a day, upload that to YouTube, and then at night I would grind for 3 to 4 hours to get my characters leveled up enough so that when I started playing the next day, I could kick the game's ass for a couple of stages until it got challenging again. So that's probably what you're going to end up doing. A lot of people don't like that. They don't like games that have a mandatory grind. So if that is the case, that's not your cup of tea, you're not going to like this game. Me personally, it depends. Some days I really enjoyed the grinding. Other days I was like, oh, I just don't really feel like doing this, but if I'm going to play the game tomorrow, I need to do this. So it's almost like you're putting in work to beat the game. And for me, this is my job, so okay, I accept that. It's work, so I have to do it. But if you're playing this game for enjoyment, you might not think that that's a good thing. You might actually get a little bit peeved that you have to grind in order to continue the story of the game, okay? Again, one of the quirky things, I don't know why the art is supposed to be in HD, but some of it was pixely. Some people might complain about that. And like I said, the long-windedness of it. Besides that, as long as you know what you're getting when you get into this game, you're getting into a game that takes a large investment of time, that has a grinding style, that is a tactical, turn-based, slow gameplay. It's not a fast-paced game by any means. If you're looking for action and excitement and reactionary gameplay, this is not it. This is a game where you have to take your time, think out what you're doing most of the time, and really use your head in order to win a lot of these stages. So if that's not your cup of tea, this is not the game for you. So overall, what is my score for the game, and who do I think will like the game and who won't, okay? People who will like this game, anyone who likes Japanese anime and that kind of style of artwork or that quirkiness of the plots and those kind of things that they have in that kind of culture, you're probably going to like this game. People who like tactical RPG gameplay, who enjoy grinding, who enjoy the slow turn-based style of gameplay, and having a lot of content and a lot of hours that you're going to spend with a $60 game, this is the game for you, okay? People that won't like this game is obviously the flip side. People who don't like grinding, people who don't like spending 100 hours on a game, people who don't like anything Japanese or the Japanese anime style, people who don't like long-windedness and would prefer like more abrupt things or a more serious game. The game by far is not very serious. It is a very, lackadaisical, off-the-wall kind of humor, and that's what really shines about the game. If you don't like that kind of thing, this isn't going to be your cup of tea, okay? So again, it's going to be a very polarizing game for a lot of people, depending on what you like and what you don't like. But I have to review it for face value, okay? Face value for me The gameplay is exceptional. The graphics are good, but kind of odd that some of them are pixely. And the plot is good, not great. I think that it could have been a little bit more serious, and if it were a little bit more serious, maybe you would have taken it a little bit more seriously. But the long-windedness really did get to me. The long-windedness of them just kind of busting each other's balls and joking around and just wasting time when all I want is some plot progression. You know, that really got to me, and I thought that the plot could have moved a little bit faster. They could have maybe taken some of the jokes out of there. Like, there's a lot of things about love and crushes and things that just really, it's not funny. You know, they think it is funny. Maybe it's funny if you're like a teenage girl and you're giggling about someone who might have a crush on someone else. I'm 29 years old. It's not funny to me, you know what I mean? So, again, maybe it's just me talking from my perspective. There's probably people who are going to like that kind of thing, okay? So, overall, what do I give Disgaea for? I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, okay? And keep in mind, that's a good score. That means the game is really good. It's definitely better than average. It's really good. The only reason I give it an 8 is because the gameplay is repetitive. This kind of game is very repetitive. You're going to wash, rinse, and repeat. You're going to go to a stage. You're going to figure out how to do it. Do you just attack straight forward, or is there some gimmick on this stage of why you can't attack straight forward? Once you find out what the gimmick is, you solve it, and you beat the stage. Or, if there's no gimmick, you just charge forward, murder everything, you beat the stage. And you're going to level up, you're going to unlock more abilities, which are going to allow you to be more powerful, you're going to be able to buy better weapons, and you're going to go back, and you're going to do the same thing. You're either going to solve the gimmick, or you're going to just hack and slash through everything. And that's pretty much the extent of the game, with a couple exceptions, a couple unique boss battles where you really need to think, including the last boss battle is one of the most thought-requiring boss battles I think I've done in a while, because you just cannot play that battle like the rest of the game because the boss is so powerful. But after a few attempts, I figured it out and was able to take him out. And it was very rewarding for me after I beat it. I was like, wow, using my head really excels in this game. So, if it weren't so repetitive, I think it would have gotten a higher score. If maybe, I don't know, if there was more variation. But again, that's the style of game this is. But I have to compare this to all the other games I've played this year. And remember that there were a lot of other games that did original things that weren't as repetitive at this game and were a lot more fun. And maybe it's just me talking because, yeah, I do like action and I like other things, but I do actually enjoy this turn-based stuff. Like I said, I really did enjoy Final Fantasy Tactics. But for me, my honest score, the gameplay is exceptional, the story is a little bit slow and long-winded, but the gameplay at the same time as being exceptional and the epitome of that style of gameplay, it's still repetitive, it's still a required grind, and it does get old after a while, unless you're addicted to this kind of gameplay. I don't know how many people are really going to play this game and then do all the post-game content. You know what I mean? This could potentially take you weeks to get through all of that, which is good if this is the only game you're playing. For me, I'm in a unique position, a unique perspective. I have other games I have to get to. If I didn't have those other games to get to, yeah, I probably would have continued this game and played the post-game content. So, 8 out of 10 for Disgaea 4. Really good game if you like this style. Again, it's a polarizing game. A lot of people probably won't like it, but I hope that this review has fleshed out enough that now you know whether or not you're going to like this style of game. One other note, a lot of people told me, Phil, the American voice acting is really annoying. You should use Japanese voice acting. Absolutely not, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this game, if they dub it in English, that's what they expect you to play it in America. So I don't want to disrespect all the voice actors who did all the work for this game. In addition to that, I wasn't fucking reading all that text, okay? I already did Phoenix Wright this year. There was no way I was going to read all of that text again through another role-playing game, so screw that. I was very happy that they were speaking most of the time. I didn't have to continuously be reading text boxes, so... the American voice acting isn't bad. Some of it is weird because you can tell they don't know the context of what they're reading. Like, you're supposed to say, "What the hell?" And instead they say, "Well, what the hell?" You know, it doesn't sound right the way that they say it. They don't read it with the right inflections in their voice. But for the most part, I did like the American voice work, with a couple exceptions, a couple annoying voices. Yes, I do know that the Japanese voices are probably better. If I'm watching Japanese anime, a lot of the times I do listen to the Japanese voices and read the subtitles, but I wasn't going to read aloud all the subtitles for everyone, so it is what it is, okay? Disgaea 4, a good game, an original game. It's an 8 out of 10, and I hope that if you like this style of gameplay or this quirkiness of Japanese anime culture, you're going to like this game and you should check it out, okay? So, I hope that this review has helped you to understand the game a little bit more. Hope it was very informative. And I will see you guys next time for the next episode of The Hateful Truth. Thanks a lot.